Welcome, welcome to another Sunday evening of Single Life. We are so happy you're here, and I'm already excited about the enthusiasm. I got to talk to Carmen a little bit before the recording, coming back from a conference. But tonight our topic is I'm hoping going to be a good one for you. It was a good one for me in prep for this. And I want you, if you got a few minutes or if you've got it close by, get a piece of paper and a pen, okay? Or if you want to pull up a little note thing on your phone like I do. I like to keep notes. That's like my favorite app, I think, because anytime I think of something, I start another note. I do that. If I didn't have that, I don't know what I'd do because I lose paper all the time. Anyway, so tonight the topic is going to be how to connect and find the right one. And, we hear a lot of people talk about or share their frustration in finding the right one or whatever, because some of us don't want to be single forever, right? So anyway, so what I want you to do with that paper or with your notes, I want you to make a list of, I think it's 6 things. Yep. And I'm going to give you these 6 things that I want you to write down or type up, however you're doing it. And then we're going to rate yourself, and I'm going to tell you how to do that in a minute. First, to write down spiritual, emotional, intellectual, physical, financial, social. I'm going to go through that list again, okay? Spiritual, emotional, intellectual, physical, financial, and social. Now, as many of you know, I'm a personal development junkie. There are no meetings for that. I'm just going to have to deal with it. But I have been blessed with the opportunity through the years to participate in a lot of personal development courses, classes, whatever. One of my very, very favorite ones was a Sunday school class that I did. Actually, I think I did it 2, maybe I did it 3 times because, I wanted to make sure I learned it all. Was called Achieving a Celestial Marriage. And if you are not familiar with it, you can actually purchase the book through distribution, I believe. There is an actual manual for that, and it is open to anyone and everyone that wants to get it. It's a great book with a lot of information. So I invite you, if you want to be able to get that book. It was one that was very insightful for me. When I went to those courses, that was between like 2010 and 2012, and oh my goodness, the things I learned, even from the teachers that taught the class and the insights they had from it and everything. So what I want you to do with this list is I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being the least, 10 being the most, at how well and how balanced and how healthy you feel like you are in each of these areas. Does that make sense? So with 0 being the least and 10 being the most, I want you to rate yourself. You don't have to share. This is just going to be for you. I just want you to just kind of gauge where you think you are. Then I want to talk about some of those tonight and what that could mean in our own development. But quite honestly, not only in our own development, but in the person that we look for. So in the last few weeks, we've talked about 5 things we need to talk about, right? And also we fit in that whole avoiding emotional vampires because we want to make sure, we don't do that. But we talked about those 5 things that we must talk about and agree on. But when you are dating somebody, or when you're thinking about the person that you want to be with, or whatever, these are 6 areas that you want to consider balance and some sort of common ground with in your life and in their life and whatever. So where you're at with each one of those, and we're going to talk about some of that. So spiritual could mean any range of things, right? It could mean going to church, going to the temple, It could mean scripture study. It could mean your personal prayers. It could mean, oh, anybody else have any other ideas? I mean, it could mean your personal relationship with the Lord. It could mean your knowledge of the scriptures. It could mean your habits, your daily habits, and developing yourself spiritually, that type of thing. Emotionally, the same way. Are you balanced emotionally, or do you have issues with managing stress? I call it, right? So like when you're hit with a stressor, does that kind of throw you out of the loop? Does that throw you off balance? Or are you able to take that stressor and then just kind of rebound it back into wherever and just come up with solutions to it? And a lot of that has to do more with your perspective and your attitude toward different aspects of life, different things you're going through, shall we say, right? Maybe even your whole attitude and perspective of being single. For some of us, that has been an up and down journey. For some people, they're totally loving being single. For other of us, let's just say we have our days, right? There are just days when you're like, okay, I'm just over this. Can we, get out of this gig, right? And then also with your perspective of what you see in others or what you even see in yourself. Are you the type of person that can look at somebody or look at yourself and see the good first, or do you see the bad first? Do you see what they're not doing right? What they're, are you more of a judging or critical person? And this is more of a self-assessment, so this is not something we're going to open up for the discussion unless, you feel like you have to share something. But this is not. So this is just more of a self-assessment, right? Also in your perspective, are you one that's really good at having, say, a healthy outlook on life for your perspective versus maybe feeling like you're still in a victim mentality mode of, oh, all this stuff is happening to me. I can't believe I'm going through all this stuff. And why can't I get out of this? Why can't I get a break? I've heard some people say, or whatever, versus realizing there's something you've got to learn from that before you're going to be able to get through it. We learn something from everything that we go through in life. Or we have the opportunity to anyway. Okay, and then intellectual. Are you reading? Are you trying to still educate yourself in some way? Do you take different classes? Do you try to learn new things? Whether it be through a YouTube video, how-tos, one of my favorite things, or whatever, right? Like, are you still in a learning mode in some way, even through the gospel or through different things with life? Learn a new hobby, learn a new skill, learn a new whatever, right? Or how are you physically? Are you physically active? Are you maintaining a healthy way of eating or a healthy lifestyle so that you can have a good quality of life? Financially, what does that look like? However that is, are you working your money in a way that's what you want to do? Or is it headed in a good direction? Or do you have goals for something for the future or whatever, right? Whatever it is. I will tell you, I had a conversation, I think with Jim this last week where we were talking about tithing. And I will honestly tell you that in the 12 years I've been single, I cannot remember one time that my money has ever worked out on paper. I just always seem to have more bills need to be paid out than I've got money coming in. And I've always paid my tithing because I always feel like it takes faith to pay tithing more than it takes money. And never have I had an issue with meeting my needs. It has been an amazing thing for me to be able to watch that and be a part of that. But there are blessings in that. So I'm going to put a plug in there for tithing on the financial part of that. Although we can also call that spiritual, right? And then the last one is social. What are you doing socially, or how would you rate yourself socially? I wanted to go through those real quick because it is good for us to try to be introspective in some ways of being aware of ourselves in these different areas when we are looking for somebody, when we're looking to connect with somebody that you're wanting to be with. Now, does it mean you've got to be perfect and you got to be all 10s in each of these? No, I don't know of anybody that is. And if you did put all 10s in all these, I think we need to do a different self-assessment because nobody's that perfect, honey. So, so anyway, this is one where we're going to come back to this, but I just wanted to start off with this for a little bit, just to have you be thinking in this mode for a little bit, okay? Now, there are different attitudes and perspectives that different people can take when they're trying to connect with and find somebody. And I do believe that we all need to be in a place where we've gotten over whatever we've been through. Like whatever trauma, whatever loss, whatever grief, in the divorce, in the death of a spouse, in the whatever, because you don't want to carry that through into the next relationship. And I covered that early on in our webinars. I think it was the first month, maybe first 6 weeks. So go back and review that. There are certain stages that you do need to go through to be able to get through all that. If you're still going through those first 3 or 4 stages, you're just not quite ready, okay? And it's good for you and it's good for the person that you're dating to be honest with yourself about that, because you may feel like it'll be okay, that you can still do this and it'll all work out. Or if I can just find a good woman to help me get through this, or if I can just find a good man to help me get through this, don't put that on them. You know, you need to be in a good spot where you're at to be able to move forward. Okay. Now, for those of you that are new, by the way, welcome. Appreciate you being here. We do have some people that are regulars on here, and I'm grateful for them, near and dear to my heart. They generally have great insights, and I'm just so grateful that they join me every week. But if you're new, you are still welcome to join in on the discussion. If you have a comment or an opinion or a question or whatever, please feel free to do that. We just ask that there's no bashing going on. There's no bashing of exes or leaders or whatever. We want to keep it uplifting. Although if you do have a story that say is not so positive, that's totally okay. It's just we just ask that we don't get all bashing into that. And I hope that makes sense. The other thing is you are just free to share what you want to. We try to keep this open and real as much as possible, and we just appreciate you guys all joining us. So I want to talk about something here that I feel like we have talked about before a little bit, but I want to bring in this just a little bit more. And this has to do with a few things that's on the list. It could be spiritual, could be emotional, could be social, whatever. And that is on the topic of judging, criticizing, gossiping, kind of thing. Nobody's perfect. Nobody. I don't care who you are. If ever you hear anybody say, when they're talking about their ex, I did nothing wrong, they're not over that. They're not ready for a relationship. Because everybody, no matter what situation, none of us are perfect in our marriages, in our previous marriages, if you've been married before. I can honestly say there are plenty I did wrong. Not that I caused what happened, but there's plenty that I could have done better to be a better wife. And I've learned from that, and that I'm grateful for. But for someone to say I did nothing wrong, I worry about that, Because if they're always blaming the other person or somebody, and if you hear them doing that, and you know, their general relationships of they do nothing wrong and everybody else is always wrong and doing stuff to them and making them look bad or whatever, that is generally, and I don't throw this term around loosely. Sadly, it's been way past overused and not in the right way, but that is generally a form of narcissism. Okay. So just so you know, be aware of that. That is not somebody you want to be in a relationship with. However, I will tell you this, there are people that will call people a narcissist that do not understand what that is. So just know that there are some pretty direct, black and white guidelines on what a narcissist is. Also, today I got to experience somebody who got up in a testimony meeting, and her first words were, well, everybody knows that I've been going through whatever. And I thought, well, I was visiting, so obviously I didn't know. But I've heard people say that before. Well, everybody knows that I'm doing this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I didn't know that. And how would everybody know that, you know? Or even if you did post it on Facebook, not everybody's going to see that, because the way lovely Facebook algorithms are, not everybody's going to see all your news feed, right? So don't assume that people know everything about you, because 9 times out of 10 people don't, because most people generally are more worried about their own lives and getting through their own days with their own families and their own children and their own whatever, to really worry about everybody else. And if they are worried about everybody else, I'd more worry about them, right? Because we all just kind of need to just take care of our stuff and who we're friends with, and we take care of our friendships, and we accept people who they are, where they're at. And when you can get to that point, I think that's awesome. And then the others is, so I've worked a lot with teenagers through the years, especially teenage boys. I love teenagers. I think they're some of the most fascinating people on the planet, because they do come up with some great different perspectives. I love how, well, when they're not my own children, but when I'm working with them, they think they know everything. My own children and I had butted heads when they got to that stage, I must say. But I'm working with other teenagers. It's been kind of like a thing of, so how do you see this in the world? And I love hearing their perspectives, right? Well, there's this one young man. He was probably about, I don't know, 17, 18 years old. And he would go around and tell people, I'm humble. I'm a humble person. And I busted his bubble one day and I said, honey, humble people don't have to tell people they're humble. And he was just like, oh, okay. You know, like if somebody's truly humble, if they're truly modest about who they are and what they're doing, you don't have to go around telling everybody, you know. Or I love it when people say, can I be honest with you? And I'm like, what were you doing before? You know, were you not honest with me before? Or I have to be honest. Well, do you have to be? You know, because I kind of would hope that you're always honest, you know, kind of thing. So before we get to the next section of what we're going to talk about, I want to just kind of open this up, because I know I've just kind of dumped a bunch of stuff on you. So what are your thoughts about any of what I just shared with you? I know I've just kind of opened up some floodgates here. What's going through your heads? Anybody have any thoughts on this? So Jennifer, can I pick on you for a minute?
Just a second, 1 second. Oh yeah, I'm done. Okay, what's up?
Okay. So what are your thoughts?
We've had a lot of commotion going on here, moving room to room, trying to get ourselves together.
Okay.
But I I agree with a lot of what you've said. We have to prepare ourselves, and we have to be mindful of where we are before we can allow somebody to come into our crazy, so to speak. And so we just want to make sure that we are monitoring, where we are and the things that we've gone through, and make sure that whomever we date has gone through and done that kind of work as well, so that we can at least start off on the same level playing field. So that's the big thing I got from what you were saying.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else? Who's some of my regulars here? We got Pat, we got Brian, we got Heidi. Any of you, Sylvia, any of you want to share your thoughts? Heidi?
Yeah, it was, hey, can y'all hear me?
I can hear you. Did we just lose you? I think we just lost her.
Hi,
Oh, hey,
can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Did you lose me? No. Okay, great. So, I look so forward to being on here every Sunday, and everybody knows, like, don't mess with me between 6 and 8, because I'm going to be on this webinar. I get so excited, but because I've learned so much, and I really gained another family, I feel. So another family of support. But you did say a whole lot. There was a whole lot going on, and part-time that I can focus on. But through my whole health is really been focused on, and that's what stuck out most to me is the self-awareness and love.
Okay, Heidi, I think you're breaking up a little bit, honey. Yeah, you're getting really garbled. I can't really hear what you're saying.
For and who they want to be, and that's something that I've not always been.
Okay, I think she's going to have to reconnect. Alrighty. So so yes, I know I'm just giving you there's a lot to just kind of pile on, but what do you think about the 6 steps or the 6 aspects, if you will, of the spiritual, emotional, intellectual, physical, financial, and social? What do you think about that? Anybody have any thoughts on that one? Okay. So I want you to think about that when you consider who you're dating. What are your expectations in those categories of the person that you're looking for? Are you looking for somebody that's a social butterfly? Or would you rather be with someone who's more reserved? Brian?
Yeah, I think if you kind of take an average of all those, I think we've got an echo, but if you take an average of all those together, and then you want to kind of like find somebody who's close to your average. Like, you're not going to necessarily want someone who is an exact mirror image, but they may be stronger in some areas and weaker in others, but you want them to be somewhat, you want to have, yeah, you want to be an equal overall in general, or pretty close. And I think there's going to be a lot of subjectivity in how you rate other people as opposed to how you rate yourself too, but how other people rate you. I think that's kind of the key to it, is that you need to find someone who is putting all those things together, who's pretty close to it equally, so that you can have compatibility.
I love how you put that, because you don't want somebody who's just on your equal. I mean, if you got somebody, because you want somebody still you can grow with, it's going to challenge you a little bit, that's going to inspire you, that's going to uplift you, right? It's going to bring in a whole different perspective. That's awesome to me. That's kind of exciting even. So, so Heidi, are you still with us? Heidi,
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Woohoo, I can hear you.
I had to come outside and get in the car.
Okay, that's okay.
So I don't know what I was where everybody lost me, but I'll just kind of give a brief synopsis of what I was saying. That emotional health is extremely important to me and has been a focus of mine for the last 3 years. And it's something that I wasn't aware of. So how could I be aware of that in someone else?
Mm-hmm.
So just a ton of awareness of healthy people, like me trying to be healthy emotionally, and then trying to find someone who has that same ability to take responsibility for who they are, for their choices. And it's not easy. It is hard. It takes work. It takes effort. And but I love someone who's able to say, I messed up. I was wrong. This is what I did. This is what I did. This is what I could have done differently. So I really, the emotional stuff for me is really, really big, and self-awareness. And I'm excited to continue to learn and grow and better myself so that I can hopefully attract someone who's just as healthy and mindful.
Awesome. Thank you. Rachel, did you have a thought you wanted to share? Maybe she's no longer unmuted. All right. Yeah, you guys are awesome. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts like this. It is something when you think about this. Okay, so when you're looking for someone else, though, you do want somebody that's going to more compliment you, and you want to kind of, if you would, rate them as you get to know them on these in these different aspects. And then also you may want to list how important each one of these are to you in someone else. If you're one that wants to always be entertaining people at your house, and you want to be, people person all the time, and you want to be involved with people, they might want to be okay with that, right? The other person, if they're not okay with that, you might have an issue, right? So that would be on the social aspect of things. You just kind of need to know where you're compatible with on that one. All right. Another thing to consider is, and you hear me talk about mindset a lot, but also because we can tend to be more self-centered sometimes, because we are just more, taking care of ourselves and trying to get through life and whatever journey we're on. But we also want to consider the outward mindset of other people and accepting them and their own perspective and their own journey and the way they are, where they're at. We cannot necessarily project who we are, what we think, or our perspective onto someone else. That's called trying to change them. And if you're with somebody that you feel like you want to change, you're not going to be with them long term. It's not going to work. So, or if you feel like you've got to change to be with them, that's not going to work. You want somebody that will be okay with who you are. And you're going to end up changing. We talked about this, I don't know, sometime in the last week or two, when one person in the couple shifts a little bit in one direction, the other person's either going to move with them or away from them, one or the other. So there is change involved, but it doesn't have to necessarily be verbal. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, hey, you need to change this about yourself kind of thing. It can just be, hey, I'm going to be reading my scriptures every day. Do you want to join me? Kind of thing. Either way, sometimes it's an example thing. Sometimes it's just a shift in whatever they're doing with their life, and then just kind of grow together. If you can grow together, that's awesome. All right, and so you want to really think about what your expectations are in each of those areas. Now, let's have a discussion, though, on how to connect with somebody. Where to find them? Where do we go? What do we do? There's so many options out there with trying to meet people. So Oh, I love that Brian Poole said, don't date their potential, date their reality as they are now. Amen, amen, amen. Because there's no guarantee of whatever you think their potential is that they'll reach that. But where they are, listen to them, what their goals are, listen to them, what their perspectives are, and accept them where they are at. That's awesome. Love it. Okay, so let's talk about where do we find these people? Where do we find potential dating people? Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you. Do you guys have any ideas?
I am all about singles conferences. I think that's the best place to find quality people because they are wanting to be around other people of like, I don't know, they're just, we're more similar. And I think that there is less for us to overcome if we try to go somewhere outside of a church activity or whatever.
What?
There's just a lot more
I can't hear you. What?
work to go in.
Sometimes, but not always.
Rachel?
Are you ready to grill?
Rachel, are you talking to us? Okay, I'm thinking.
There was 2 Rachels on, so I'm guessing they probably, somebody shared a link and there they go, they muted.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we're good. All right, thank you, Jennifer. So singles conferences. Can we also add, oh, that's awesome, thank you. Can we also add like maybe single adult activities or events? Could we do that? What do you think about those?
We should ask the people who graduated out of the single adult program where the best place to meet people are.
Yeah.
Where did you 2 meet your people, your significant others that you have there with you?
At a conference. Jennifer? Just say ditto.
I was at an activity. It was a conference / activity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know, isn't that funny? And then Fred and Julie, if you guys know them, they got engaged 2 nights ago, I think. And they met at a single adult something. I don't know if it was at a conference, but I think it was like a dance or something like that. So yeah, I mean, quite honestly, I know there's a lot of online stuff. There's a lot of Facebook groups on there. There's a lot of interaction with a lot of different people, and I have found that the best way to meet somebody, the best way to find somebody is in person. Now, that's my opinion. That works for my personality. That works from my perspective, right? Now, for some people, it may be better for them to start off on Facebook and chat a little bit, do a little bit of Messenger, do a little whatever, and then meet up somewhere.
Paula, can I interject something here?
Please, go right ahead.
Jonathan and I actually met on a single site about 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago. And we talked a little bit, but neither of us were really kind of ready to move into any kind of a relationship or anything. So we just kind of fizzled out. And then when we walked into the conference and saw each other, it's been on ever since. So I think that while learning, you know, what you're teaching us tonight or what you were trying to get out of this tonight has a lot of value, because back 3.5 years ago, I did not think as highly of myself as I do now. I was going through some challenges that I had to finish going through before I was ready to appreciate the great man that he is. And he has shared that there's a lot of similarities there. So I think that even if you are kind of on the same level, which we kind of were even still back then, the timing is a big thing as well.
Amen.
So.
Amen. Yeah, sometimes there are things you need to do to be ready for the right one. There are things that they need to do to be ready for you. So I'm all about the timing. I wholeheartedly agree with that. So sometimes people are frustrated with, I'm so tired of being single. I want to find somebody. I want to date them. But if you're feeling that way, are you at a point where you're ready, where you're able, what are you bringing to the table, in essence, right? What are you bringing to the table? What are they bringing to the table? Where are you at? Are you able together to create a healthy relationship? So I hope that makes sense, because nobody wants to get married and miserable. Who wants that, right? Nobody's going to be like, ooh, sign me up. Not having it. So that's why a lot of times I talk about what you think, that whole law of attraction, you're going to attract what you reflect. If you're putting yourself down, you're going to attract somebody that's going to put you down. If you feel like you're not worthy of love, you're going to attract somebody that's going to make you feel like that you're going to wonder if they love you, and that maybe they feel like they can't commit to you, or they feel like they can't really love you. So you've got to be able to put that out there. Whatever you put out in the world is going to come right back at you. It's almost like a magnet, right? You're going to put it out there in the world, whatever you feel, however you are, and then you're going to attract that. I had a discussion with a friend of mine a few weeks ago. He lives in South Carolina, or here in the Southeast, and he was telling me he can't find anybody that to go out with. Anybody that everybody that he likes doesn't seem to be interested in him. And so we chatted for a minute, and I'm like, so what are some of the things that you say to yourself? I mean, you're saying basically, well, nobody likes me, nobody wants to date me, kind of thing. He's got lots of friends. He's a very friendly person, very outgoing. People love him. But as far as dating him in a romantic way, he can't seem to find anybody. And so I shared with him a couple of women, or told him that I knew of a couple of women that would totally love to go out with him. He's like, yeah, but I'm not that into them. And I asked him why. And he said they were overweight. And this man is very overweight, or he is overweight. And I said, isn't that kind of a double standard? Because he was saying, well, people don't want to date me because I'm overweight. I'm like, but you're also saying you don't want to date somebody because they're overweight. So you know what I mean? So it was like just having to acknowledge where you're at. If you want somebody that's a healthy weight, and you feel like somebody that is a healthy weight that wants to, that's what they're looking for, then you're going to need to be that too. If that's not an issue for you, then it's a non-issue. That makes sense?
Or Paula, I think there is another option there as well. Like, I've always struggled with my weight, and Jonathan really does well with his. He lives a very healthy lifestyle. He eats very clean. He works out, and he can be an encouragement to me as well. Not push me, but encourage me. And I think that if that's something that you're okay with, like, I'm okay with somebody, helping me as I'm ready. I mean, I've given up sodas since we started dating, which I didn't think I'd ever be able to do. So,
good job, Jonathan.
But I'm just saying, it's an encouragement instead of something where we talk about not wanting to change people, but I think that with having a support system there, you're able to do more things that maybe you weren't strong enough to do on your own. I know I could never have given up sodas without having a support system in my life. I just couldn't. And, there's other changes coming in my life. They've already started coming. So, you know what I'm saying? It's just, I think we have to acknowledge that having a partnership has great value for more than, I don't know, the support is just great value is, I guess, my biggest comment there.
That's awesome. I love, though, the fact that you brought up the fact that Jonathan is willing to date you, or wanted to date you, not willing to, wanted to, you were still attracted to you. Sorry, that did not sound bad. I mean, that sounded horrible. But he was still attracted to you no matter what your weight was, right? But yet this man that I was having a conversation with, he did not want to go out with somebody because of their weight, and they weren't that big. So I'm like, so that's more, I mean, he was just judging them based on their weight. And that's what I was just getting at, that he was saying, well, nobody wants to go out with me because I'm overweight, but then he didn't want to go out with anybody. I'm like, hello, double standard there, you know? So, but I love that you brought up the whole support thing, because, you know, you guys would have had a conversation about that, which is awesome. I'm loving it. So when you have that conversation, then you're able to find out where each other is at with that, right? So, so then you find out what you're open to. And I love that he approached it in an encouraging way and not in a you have to change or else, right? So that wouldn't work. I know that wouldn't work for you, girl.
I was getting ready to say, y'all all on this call know that would never work. That would backfire, and I'd double down on my soda drinking.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. So yeah. So when it comes to that, and that's just the physical aspect of things, but then like I also have had conversations with people where they're attracted to people who are intellectuals, and they love people that are just like, you know, just all about intellect, and that is their attraction, and that's their big drive, and that would be like their number one with trying to find somebody. So, I mean, whatever is most important to you is you know, it just is what it is. And then it says, Brian said, there's little doubt you must have one of the other qualities or aspects about you that make up the difference. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I would agree with that with Jennifer for sure. Okay, with anybody. So, so yeah, that's awesome. All right, so, so back to where do we find somebody? So there's a lot of different attitudes and perspectives toward the single adult program in the church. I've heard so many. I've been working this program for a few years now, and I've heard a lot. And you know, there are different people that think it should be ran a certain way. There are people that feel like, you know, it's too hard, or you know, they're not ready to meet somebody, so they don't want to go to anything. I've made the best friends through the single adult program, and it's more girlfriends than it is guy friends. But I mean, I've made guy friends. Don't get me wrong, but anyway, it is just, it's a very good friend, encouraging, just a good social group to be a part of while you're going through your journey. There were times for years I wasn't ready to date somebody, and but yet I needed friends. So it's a great place to be while you're going through that journey. All right, we have somebody who made a comment here in the chat. It says, I'm worried about the language of suggesting you invite personality that will devalue you when you devalue yourself. I don't want to overlook the self-defeating psychology of applying your insecurities to the person you are dating when you may not be devaluing you as much as you think you are. Well, again, it's perspective. You know, it's wherever you're at. And no, none of us are perfect. And if we've come to a place of acceptance and being okay with who we are, where we're at, faults and all, that's still a good place to be. So nobody's going to be like, ooh, I'm all that in a bag of chips. Well, I don't know about nobody. There may be some people that are like that. But some people are not going to be like, ooh, I'm all that in a bag of chips, right? And it's like, I'm going to be the gift to the world. And those kind of people you might want to worry about for a little bit. But overall, you want to, you know, just make sure that you're in a healthy place emotionally, and that you're not always putting yourself down and always in the victim mentality type thing. Okay, so where are other places? What are other experiences you guys have had with finding people to date outside of the single adult program? Have you had experiences with that? Anybody had anything successful online?
Most of the relationships that I've had started online in some form or another.
Okay. Have there been any women that have had that experience? I've heard a lot of men say that.
I've had dates from online dating, like dating apps, but nothing has really come from it. But actually, the only things I've experienced has actually been like run. It hasn't been date a ton of people. Like there's tons of men I could date on these dating apps. But I just can't find a lot of them that are aligned with my values and my morals. And very, very few of them are. I've made maybe one friend out of all of it. So I quit. I quit. I quit. I deleted them all, and I've just stopped. So.
Okay. Yeah, and you're at a place where they don't have a lot of single adult events too, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we have like nothing is rolling over here at all.
Right.
Nothing.
You have to travel to try to do that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So when it comes to the single adult program, it does, I know, depend on your area. There are some people that feel like they've got to travel more because there's just not a lot in their area, and then there are others that are, that do. So I think it just depends. But if you can meet in person, that is going to be the best way. I love, though, you start online, fill it out. There are different questions you can ask online that are less invasive and less confrontational, but still be able to get to know you. Keep it surface, keep that forward, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Don't get too much into details online, but and then maybe you can carry it over to the phone if you want to. I'd still rather you meet in a public place, somewhere, even at a single adult event. If they're members of the church, that should not be an issue. And then, just kind of go from there. Definitely use safety and precautions when meeting people online. That's a big deal. All right. Any other suggestions on where to find people? We're kind of limited, aren't we? We're kind of dependent on that single adult program, and that's why I really feel like that is so inspired. And when it works well. And when it doesn't work or it's not functioning, then there are more issues. For a lot of people, I do recommend that if nothing else within your wards or within your stake, start a home evening group or start a Come Follow Me study group, start an activity night, a game night, start something. Get a few group of friends together. Most stakes have between 800 and 1,500 single adults in their stake. Most wards average 80 to 120 or so single adults on roster. So there is a way to be able to reach out to people to, just be friends with them and bring them in. All right, so let's talk about this though, because even when we go to these different events, let's say we're going to a single adult event, we're going to a conference, we're going to wherever, and you start talking to somebody and you meet them. Are you, what is your approach, right? Like, how are you approaching them? How are you meeting them? For some people, I've experienced what feels like a job interview. How many times have you been married? How many kids do you have? What ward are you in? Oh, that'd be like a 3-hour drive, 2-hour drive. That's too much for me, kind of thing. And it does feel kind of like a drilling thing. I remember Fred talking about a woman at Nauvoo, asking him what medications he was taking during a dance. I was just like, for real, right? So be careful with those questions that you ask. Don't get too personal when you first meet them. Keep it surface. Keep it getting to know you. If you need to get to know you questions, Google it. Google is a great resource. Just get to know you questions, icebreaker questions, whatever. Google that. I sent you the 375 questions to ask when you're dating somebody, and it included those questions I read last week. So there's a lot of questions to go through, and there's a lot of things you do need to get to know when you're dating somebody. But when you're meeting people, you keep it surface. You got to keep it in the get to know you. What do you do for fun? I love that Brian Kellogg brought that up one time. What do you do for fun? I love that question. It's a great question. And that whole recreation thing, you can have hours of conversation about what you like to do for fun. Unless you're just working all the time and then you got to go to work. Then you go to the work conversation and talk about that, or talk about whatever is really heavy in their life and do that. And do the how to win friends and influence people approach, where you're just asking questions about them and let them talk about themselves. And then if they are, if they know how to have a conversation, if they know how to do the give and take, then that would be awesome, because then they can ask you, and then you're getting to know each other. You can also gauge their interest in you in doing that. All right. Some people ask, especially the women, where are the men? Why aren't there more men that attend these things? I want to have a little bit of a conversation about that. This is something that for me is pretty huge, and I know at Father's Day we did a whole section on men. I think even before that we did a couple of Sundays of talking about men in the church. But I will tell you, as women, we're challenged, especially when we're raising kids or whatever, with being a single moms and having to do things different than expected and whatever. But men in the church, depending on their circumstances, tend to have greater challenges. And because 9 times out of 10, if a couple is going to a ward and they've been there for a while, 9 times out of 10, the man's going to be blamed for the divorce, no matter what. Anybody want to argue that point? Most of the time, the man is blamed. And then there's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of judging. People naturally are going to take sides. Most of the time, people tend to side with a woman. And so if a man is feeling shunned, if a man is feeling ostracized, if a man is feeling like, people are just looking at him, glaring at him, and whatever, whether he did something wrong or not does not matter. The atonement is real, people. Yep. But what, Tammy?
Oh
yeah,
real, yeah.
Atonement is real.
Thank goodness.
Amen, amen. Right?
Yeah.
So when men are going through that and they're experiencing those kind of feelings in the ward or in their stake or whatever, do you think they're really going to want to show up? I mean, it's like them being a punching bag and going, oh yeah, let me come back for more. I do know of some men, really good men, that in spite of this, wait, hold on. Okay. That I do know of men that in spite of this, I know men that are experiencing this, and in spite of this, they still go to church. And they're treated horribly at church. But they still go because they want to be an example for their children. And my hat's off to them. Amazing what they have to go through just to be able to go to church. In our church, in a Christian church, in the Church of Jesus Christ. So, I know that when you're going through a divorce, you're feeling like you need to vomit your story. I know. I did it. I know. But be careful who you vomit your story to. That's probably not a nice word, but that's how it felt to me. And it was hard coming up. Or coming out of telling that story. But be careful who you share that with. Your bishop may need to know. Maybe your religious society president, but everybody in the ward doesn't need to know. remember that you have the reputation of someone else in your hands. And it is wrong. I don't care what they did. It is wrong for you to go around and smear their name. I don't care if it's true. Gossip is gossip, whether it's true or not. Rumor is rumor, true or not.
You
Right?
know, Paula, I was going to say, even with not even this, this topic, some church members have a tendency to judge your life, period. It doesn't necessarily have to even be, a divorce.
Yeah, that's true.
You have something going on in your life and they've got an opinion and they've got a judgment, and depending on a trial or something that you may be going through, they've already judged you about that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
like your
Yeah.
parenting skills, I've had that come into question about, other mothers coming to me and, you need to do this and you need to do that. And I mean, that's just parenting. So it's almost, it's not a surprise to me that they're going to be like that as far as the situation as well.
No. I'm glad I'm not the only one that has experienced that, Tammy. I tell you, it's something. Yeah, it is really something to me how some people feel like they take it upon themselves to be judge and jury. And if you want men to come, you've got to be able to make them feel good about coming. Because if you're going to make them feel demasculated, you're going to make them feel like, they have to do this and they have to do that. They're not going to show up. They're going through the same crap we are. And their ego is hurt just like ours is. It still hurts. But yet they're not, a lot of times in society, they're told, oh, you can't show emotion. That's weak. Right? I don't know if we've talked about this before or not, but the mask of the man, how you've got to put on that strong face and heaven forbid you cry. To me, it takes strength and vulnerability to be able to do that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to say, we had that exact same thing happen. We had that happen in our ward. It's the first time I've ever experienced it. But because of my past, and because of my experiences with the men that had been in my life as far as priesthood holders, my mom's husbands and things like that. Oh yeah, I totally jumped on that bandwagon with the woman, and I sided with the woman, and we went to her house and we did support groups for her, and the ward was splitting because some were taking his side and others were taking her side, but most people were taking her side, and she played the victim very, very well, and I totally bought it, and I wasn't rude to him, but I cold shouldered him, and I judged him pretty harshly. It's a double standard. We automatically, like you said, we automatically assume it's the man's fault. No matter what happened, it's usually his fault. And I think the same thing happens with sexual sins. When a woman has sexual sins, she's viewed way more harshly than a man is. But anyway, I say that to say that I gained self-awareness through that experience of that's what the men face. And he came and he kept coming to church. And even after she moved out of the state, he was there. And I finally, one day, he actually ended up being our Sunday school teacher. And I walked up to him one day and I just apologized. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I believed everything that she said. And I'm not saying she wasn't right or wrong. I'm just saying I'm so sorry that I sided. And I'm so sorry that I quit speaking to you. And please forgive me for that. And he's just like, well, I appreciate you so much saying that. But it is true. It does happen. But now my eyes are open, and that was a bias that I was carrying because of my own experiences. At one time, I think I was a pretty mean man hater. I mean, because of my experience.
Yeah,
but
so
now my eyes are open.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, it happens a lot. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you were at a single adult event and you start hearing people talk about people, men or women, please do not participate in that gossip. Please walk away. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to listen to the, oh, did you hear what she did? Did you hear what he did? Did you hear what whatever? You don't have to do that. Just don't. Don't be a part of that. Even, was it Elder Uchtdorf? He was even talking about it. What were the 2 words he said whenever you do that, or whenever you hear about it? Stop it. Just stop.
Yeah, don't just walk away. I think you
Walk
put a
away.
stop to it. I've done that a couple times, and I've kind of walked away and kept my mouth shut because I was new and I didn't know who the people were. But I felt a lot of regret later not saying, look, we all have our problems. We all have our issues. Let's not talk about other people's because that's not our place. And
Right.
even if it's a person that you agree with them on what opinion they're expressing, even if you know that or you feel like that whatever is being said is true, you still have to put a stop to it, because no one likes to have you wouldn't want your imperfections being spread to everyone else. And so you don't want, I got so hurt by gossip that it repels me. It repulses me when I hear people gossiping about other people, even if it's true. And it just really bugs me. And now I've gotten to a point where after that one time, when I recognize gossip, I try to put a stop to it and say, look, this needs to stop. We need to quit this. We all have our own problems, and we don't need to judge somebody else because their problems are different than ours.
Thank you for sharing that. Also, something I have learned is if people are going to be going around gossiping about other people, they're also going to be gossiping about you at some point. Or they could. And those are generally not people that are ready to be trusted. So just be careful, with that, and who you trust and who you share your information with.
Well, Paula, one of the suggestions that I wanted to make is that because we have all kind of bonded through the webinar, and as we bond, as we are going to the single adult conferences and stuff like that, we can, we're not a match for everyone, so we can be friendly with other people. And instead of sharing information with those people that you want to date, we can always be sounding boards for each other and help each other heal from all of our hurt. And I am so grateful for the friends, male and female, that have helped walk me through my journey so that I could be a lot more healthy and be ready for, the relationship that I'm in right now. And it's, I just think that's really important. It's hard for men and women in the church. I can't say it's harder for another, because everybody's circumstances is different.
Right.
But I know that when you wake up on Sunday morning as a single person, that a lot of Sundays I went to church for my kids.
Amen.
And they held me together during that time. And I don't think, had I had all of you people in my life, I would feel that way. And I just encourage those people that are in that moment to find somebody. I will take calls from anybody on this call. I am more than happy to help people, because it is a hard time in your life. And we need to be there for each other. If nothing else, all the single people need to band together so that we can be a family.
Yep. Amen, sister. I'm telling you what, if I did not have those friends, honey. Oh, I don't even want to think about it. Yeah. Oh my goodness, the people I needed to talk to. And quite honestly, I remember saying I don't need to pay for a therapist. I've got good friends, because I just needed to get that story out until it couldn't get out anymore, until I was over it, And we do need to talk about it. We don't need to hold it in, because feelings buried alive never die. Remember that one? We've got to be able to get those out. We've got to be able to work through the whole process, and we need our friends to do that. So thank you, Jennifer, for saying that. So I don't want to dwell a whole lot on this in kind of in a big way, but just if people, whenever anybody comes in, they say, where are the men? Don't make them don't be putting them on a guilt trip. Don't be making them feel bad for whatever they are or are not doing that you feel like they should do. And, be grateful for their effort in being able to come out there, because it takes a lot to be able to do that. And
add in about the gossip.
What was that?
I just wanted to add in about the gossip that you should never let someone else tell you who to date or who not to date. And if someone says something like that, you just need to like get it out of your head and wait until that person makes whatever impression they're going to make on you, and almost disregard it when someone says that, and realize that they may have your best interest at heart, but they're really not helping you to experience everything you need to experience.
I love it. Thank you. That was a great comment. Yeah, that's definitely, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so just a couple of things is I want to talk about just real briefly here, the if only syndrome. I may have mentioned that before, where you may get into the, well, if only I was dating, I'd be happy. If only I was married, then I'd be happy. Or if only I was whatever, fill in the blank, then I'd be happy. You got to work on being happy right here where you're at and being the right one. So if you want to find the right one, first you've got to be the right one. Are you really ready to meet somebody? You've really got to be able to be able, to do that self-assessment, have that awareness. Somebody said, somebody suggested, don't put this condition on yourself of if I'm not married by blank, I'm just going to quit, leave church, stop going to single adult activities, whatever. Please, if I'd done that, it would be 12 years, people. No, you just don't quit. You got to just don't give up, because you need the process of whatever. Remember that it's not only you that is preparing yourself, but they are too. And if you quit, then you stop the process. So you've got to both be ready for each other at the right time. Just like Jennifer said, I think it was Jennifer that was talking about timing earlier. Timing is crucial. It's important. And sometimes you go through different experiences to be able to help you get to that point where you are ready.
Paula,
Uh-huh.
can I go back a little bit?
Sure.
When I went to the Atlanta conference, I had a goal of meeting and dancing with at least 3 different guys that I'd never met before. And I did that with one gentleman, and it basically, the conversation went like, okay, he asked me how many kids. It was like, oh, they're too old. I have younger children. Oh, you live here too. It was like he just went down that, and he just like, that was it. He's like, he dismissed me, like, I answered like whatever 3 questions that I guess were potential deal breakers for him, and it's like, wow, is it really like that? I mean,
Right. Yeah. That's what I was saying earlier. It's like when people had this certain whatever in their head, whereas what I have learned is that the person that the Lord is preparing for you in your life may not show up. For me, it didn't show up the way I thought it would. Actually, it's better. And that to me is pretty huge. And I'm glad, because I could have totally have missed it. If I was looking for something specific. So just be mindful of that. The person that you're looking for, try to do all you can to be close to the Lord, to follow that inspiration, to follow the Spirit in doing that. And I also want to advise you to study your patriarchal blessing. It is never too late to receive those blessings from your patriarchal blessing. Study that, because the Lord is mindful of you. He knows you. He knew you from the start. He knew you from the end, from the beginning. And so so be mindful of that, and be prayerful in approaching the activities and events that you're going to be a part of. And just know that the Lord wants you to succeed, and He wants you to be happy, and He knows your righteous desires. And, He can definitely be there for you and support you. Any other last thoughts before we close out?
Hello. This has been really quite instructive for me tonight. I can relate to almost none of what's been said. I've known I'm kind of an anomaly, and it really helps me to understand where other singles are coming from. My divorce was almost non-existent. I'm not sure that very many people even knew that it was happening until a couple months after it was done. We respected each other, my ex and I, and we didn't, it was nobody else's business. It was our business. And as far as meeting people, I have a gift. I can go to any activity and I come away with new friends. And that's just part of who I am. It's always been part of who I am. I don't realize how difficult it is for some people to do this. And also, the 6 things you gave us in the beginning, we're looking at different people differently, trying to see where they fit, how they fit. Jennifer, I'm going to single you out just a little bit here. Socially, my interaction with you has been on the webinar. I saw you on the webinar. That's where I knew you from. We got to Lake Lanier. Oh my gosh, I couldn't have been more wrong about your socialness. It's like, oh, yeah, you're a hoot. I love that. Just, it's been very instructive, and it seems like most of you are on the same page, and I don't fit on the page. It's been different for me here.
Well, Pat, I'm sure you'll fit somewhere. I mean, everybody fits somewhere, right? Like, and I know that you have a lot to offer. So, I mean, you're a great guy. So, and
by the way, it's an awesome thing that you don't fit in with all the contentious divorces, which most of the LDS divorces are. That's a good thing.
That's a really good thing. It shows a lot of great. That's a really good thing, actually. So yeah. So well, I'm glad though that you've gotten some stuff out of this. But just when you approach a relationship, just be mindful of who they are and where they're coming from, and accepting them where they're at. Too many people want to put other projections or their own expectations or their own perspective onto somebody else and make them who they want them to be versus accepting them where they are and where they're at. And if you're not okay with who they are and where they're at, let them know. You can still be friends. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means they're not right for you. They're right for somebody else, and that's okay, right? I mean, there's just so many amazing people in the single adults that we can learn from, we can grow from, that will help us to be better people. It's really quite awesome. All right, any other thoughts, any other insights?
Yeah, I wanted to say that this last week, Come Follow Me was talking about unity, but it was very specific in how our diversity needs to be included. Like, it's good that we're different. It's good that we're not the same. Between us all, between all of us, when we come together, then we're one. Then we make it work. Then we have all the gifts that we need when everyone's coming together. And so, Pat, you do fit in. We all fit in. All of us fit in. But I just want to say that I got to side with Jennifer. This has been a life changer for me. This webinar, you guys, the support that we get, the insight that I gained, the knowledge that I'm gaining. Like, when I first started, I was like, it's gonna be a bunch of old people I can't relate to. And I just didn't think I was and I just didn't think I was going to get a lot out of it. In a couple of the meetings, it kind of took me a minute to get used to, but I kept coming and I kept trying, and now I can't go without you guys. I'm addicted to y'all. And so I can't wait to get on a webinar every Sunday. I make plans around this so that I can participate, because I need y'all. I need every single one of y'all. So thank you, Paula, for doing this. Thank you, everyone, for participating. It is a total life changer, and I'm just so grateful for all of you. It means so much to me. I don't know if y'all ever realized how much it means to me that y'all all each encouraged me privately and openly, and I needed it, and I need all of you. So thank you, and I hope new people keep coming, and so that they can experience this blessing too in their life.
You're awesome, Heidi. Thank you so much. All righty. Well, tonight, I hope that you were able to gain some insight in how to connect with people to find the right one, but first be the right one. Because when you feel like you are the right one, again, not perfect. I'm not at all. We don't want to be perfectionistic. When you're that way, you're not ready. You're not. If you're a perfectionistic type person, you are not ready for a relationship. Okay. But so not perfect, but just comfortable with who you are, where you're at in your life, and ready to approach a relationship in a healthy way. Okay? That is what I mean by that. And if you are, you got the green light, let's go. All right, so how to connect, where to go to connect, because if you don't show up, it will not happen. You have to show up. It's not going to happen if you just stay at home, wait for somebody to come knocking at your door. And I'm not saying it won't, because I know I've heard stories. People have been trying to tell me, Paula, I know somebody. That's fine. You know one or two people. You don't know the hundreds and the thousands of the people that still need to show up to the single adult thing, okay? So show up. If there's one that you feel like you have to sacrifice for, go through adversity to get to, try to get to that one even harder, because Satan's trying to stop you, okay? You need to be there. Go, participate, show up. And then over time, you will find that you'll be meeting more people, and you will find that they will be in your life for a reason, and you have these friends for a reason. And, you know, even if it doesn't work with somebody that you meet, maybe they know somebody, or maybe something else is coming for you around the corner and you just needed that experience of, you know, that conversation, or, you know, whatever, that friendship, whatever it is, okay? I love you guys. You guys are just so awesome. I appreciate that. I think that I am grateful for you guys joining me on the Sunday night and giving up your time to do this with me. It really means a lot to me. There is so much about being single that we all learn from each other. So it really means a lot to me that you guys are showing up on Sunday night and letting me learn from you too, because I have learned a lot from you guys, and it's been awesome. So with that, good night. Next week, we're going to be talking about healing your history and forgiveness. We're also going to talk a little bit about what to do instead of ghosting somebody. Okay? So let's talk about that a little bit next week. Healing your history and forgiveness. We're going to be talking about how we can do that so that you can be ready to move forward into a healthy relationship. All right. Love you guys. You guys are awesome. Hang loose. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.